Whether you're a parent navigating myofunctional disorders or simply curious about optimizing your family's overall health, the MyoHacker Podcast is your guide. Hi, I'm Karen Dion, a speech-language pathologist, myofunctional therapist, and a mom on a mission to bring holistic health to you and your family. Together, we'll explore whole-body connections and integrative solutions. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review to help other families discover this important information. Visit myohackerslp.com for free resources and guides. Quick disclaimer. The content shared in this podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast or its affiliates. This podcast does not provide medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult a professional regarding your circumstances. By listening, you agree that the host and podcast are not responsible for any actions you may take based on the information provided. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to the MyoHacker Podcast. With us today is Freddie Kimmel. Freddie, if I bumped into you on the street, what would you say it is that you do?
That's a great question. I would really tell people that I'm a wellness concierge. It's the term that really encapsulates everything that I do. So I started my journey to wellness. I really got into it when I had went through some late stage chronic illness, like cancer, like Lyme disease, like rheumatoid arthritis, like 5 different surgeries. And so I started asking different questions and found wonderful answers in the world of biological medicine and functional medicine and elite nutrition. So I got certified in all those things, and I love to talk about it. I'm very passionate about what's worked for me. So I do a podcast called the Beautifully Broken Podcast for the past 7 years. Wow. Actually, I was recording 7 years ago, still doing it strong. So, that's been a great tool for me to expand my learning. And I help businesses clarify their messages. I help people clarify the plan or the foundational elements they need to really build a steady road to wellness. Mm-hmm. And that's really how I spend my time in that world.
Okay, guys, I have had the privilege of knowing Freddie now for years. He came, and here's the thing. I didn't really know what an expert Freddie was. When I first met him, I had reached out to Flowpresso. I wanted us to have a Flowpresso lymphatic pump system set up at the MyoHacker retreat that we did a few years ago. And Freddie and I started chatting. He was bringing it. He ended up coming and made such a difference in that entire weekend, presenting, sharing his wisdom and his knowledge. And so since then, we've become good friends. And I love to find out just his wisdom in regards to different tools that we can utilize in the Airway journey and our wellness journeys to help us with getting to the goals that we want. So I asked Freddie to come on today. There are some specific things I wanted us to talk about. We're going to talk about PEMF. We're going to talk about red light. We're going to talk about the biological blueprint, and really how we can use different technologies, our own inner wisdom, and different methods that Freddie has really tried and he's sussed out which ones really work, how does it work in your rhythm of life, and he's just going to share that with us today. So, Freddie, I reached out. Well, actually, I was renting from you the AMP Coil, which is a type of PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequency tool, and thankfully, I had it when my son broke his leg, and I was like, Freddie, what do I do? How do we get this to help him? And you really, you take it. Tell us how you can use it, because I've seen the difference. He talks about feeling it. He didn't initially like right at first, and then pretty quickly, I would say within about a day, he was like, I feel it. It's like hot in my leg, and he would feel it through his toes. Describe for us what PEMF is and how it's beneficial for bone healing.
Yeah, let's separate those two. So we'll say what PEMF is, pulsed electromagnetic field. Some people say pulsed electromagnetic frequency. It is a frequency, but it's a field rolling off some type of an electromagnetic coil. It's really a PEMF generator is creating a magnetic field. That magnetic field moves through the body like a breeze through a leafy tree. It doesn't slow down for bones. Doesn't slow down for skin or tissue or organs. And that wave, as it moves through the body, it's stimulating electrons. And so, as you know, when we eat food, what's it turned into? electrons. It's turned into energy.
Right.
So we have this way of almost bypassing the one way the body brings energy into the system, and it starts to stimulate those electrons. And what happens? Immediately we get this dramatic movement of our red blood cells. You know, our red blood cells they're built much like a battery. There's I would say it's, if we wanted to get really scientific, it's a transmembrane potential. So there's a net positive charge on the outside of a red blood cell, a net negative on the inside. And it's that differential which allows nutrients to come in, garbage to flow out, water to move through that cell membrane. And that energetic charge is increased. So if you think about it, if we increase the positive on the outside on a red blood cell, what happens when you push two positive ends of a magnet together?
They go away from each other.
They go away. So all the red blood cells, imagine all their net positive on the outside of the cell, and that differential between the positive and the negative is increased. We get this systemic movement of blood cells. That's one thing that moves in the body. But I'm just giving you an example of something that's testable, it's measurable, and it's repeatable. So this is a big thing, is like, lots of people say, I've tried PEMF, you know, it was amazing. I jumped out of my wheelchair, or it didn't work for me. And what I'd say across the board is what happens with everybody. Everybody gets a boost in microcirculation. And that's one thing we can really like, even if you had a cheapie, like, and that's the big thing. People are like, what about this one? What about this system? What about this system? You know, they all make this electromagnetic field. And so there's wild scope of these systems, right? We've got like the really, really high end powerful devices that the NFL and the NHL and the NBA is using, called like Pulse Centers of America. Super strong. We've got the device that the Kentucky Derby is all using. They're using MagnaWave or a Wellness on their human line. And then we've got PEMF mats, and we've got things like AMP Coil. Now, AMP Coil is very different because it is, I will say, PEMF plus. It's like a PEMF device. Yes, it generates an electromagnetic wave, but it also uses sound or different frequencies. So you have an amp coil, so you understand that it's an amplifier, and there's an electromagnetic coil. And a coil, really, it looks like a 3-inch thick slice of pineapple. It's a yellow circle with a cover over it.
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the magic pineapple. And then we have a tablet with an audio cord that goes into the amplifier. So amp coil is taking collections of different sounds or frequencies. A frequency is how frequently the wave travels from tip to trough in a cycle, right? 5 hertz is 5 waves per second. 10 hertz, 20 hertz, 40 hertz, 50 hertz. Amp coil goes from 4 to 2200 hertz. Wow. So, but we're collecting these different frequencies, and imagine it's written just like a song. Single tone therapy, just like a singing bowl. Just like a Tibetan singing bowl or a tuning fork, one tone at a time, written into this code. So we'll write a journey, or that's what we say. We see a sound journey. It's a song,
right?
A collection of unique frequencies in order, amplitude, and duration that's giving the body information. That's it. It's giving the body information. And so we might have a collection of frequencies to benefit fascia, or airways, or the heart, or the pericardium, or energetic emotional, you name it. And so that's what there's single tone therapies. The audible tone is being translated into a silent electromagnetic field. So if you think about it, it's like we can do sound therapy. Like I can show you a myriad of different studies in which orchestral music or classical compositions increase our ability to learn, right, or information retention, or, joy, whatever. Now, health effects, how does sound therapy alone, because now we kind of got to say we've got sound therapy and we got electromagnetic energy and PEMF, and how do you separate those? But we can say pretty definitively that there's a value to sound therapy. Yes. And we won't go into it on this podcast, but I could give you, and I have all these.
This will be the next podcast.
That's
next
right.
One.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. You don't have to look far. I mean, there's research on Alzheimer's and, MS. I could go on and on and on about looking at sound therapy for improvements in performance in the human body. And so what amp coil is doing, it's taking that sound and it's making it inaudible. It's just turning it into an electromagnetic wave. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And so you're putting that coil on your body, and the body is hearing or feeling these frequencies move through the body. So we're getting this microcirculation. We're getting this movement of electrons, right, from the PEMF.
Right.
Because now you're going to see PEMF devices. You're going to see electromagnetic therapy for treatment-resistant depression, certified by the FDA.
Wow.
We see for accelerated healing.
Wait, go back. So for the depression, has this recently been certified to treat it? Like, what do you mean? Or is it
There's
coming
different.
along?
I don't have the name of the machine, but there's a bunch out there. It's targeted. They're mapping the brain with a brain map, and then they're amplifying the area that is slow to respond.
There's locally, we have a neurofeedback practitioner, and he utilizes the PEMF in conjunction with the treatment because he's found that the outcomes they're just better.
Yeah. There's so many. It's transcranial pulsed electromagnetic field.
Amazing.
So
can I get one? How do I get one?
That most of those are in a doctor's office.
Right.
That's like a facility because they want to map the brain, and they're usually treating one side. Tim Ferriss talked a lot about it. He's now funding this because for him, it cured his insomnia, his lifetime of insomnia, which if you listen to Tim Ferriss, he's great. And we realize how challenging it is to disconfirm our bias sometimes. Like it's often like, it's the mushrooms, it's this. His journey has been interesting with insomnia. Apparently, he's had this long 8-month resolution of lifetime insomnia from using this transcranial magnetic stimulation. Now, we can call it anything we want. It is a pulsed electromagnetic wave.
Because I'm familiar with TMS, because I have patients that will go and get that, but I didn't necessarily know what it was, to be honest. Yeah. Because it's kind of common in autism when it's severe or depending on seizures. I won't say common, but it is a treatment modality that has been utilized, but it's fascinating. So you would say that it is akin or along the same lines as PEMF?
No, it is PEMF.
Wow.
But marketing.
Okay. Yep.
Now, people will tell you it's different. I hear you. It may be targeted where the applicator goes on the brain, but it is a pulsed electromagnetic field. There's only so many ways you can spin that.
Right.
It's not that different.
Right.
It's not that different. And I know plenty of people who use a pulse centers or a magnawave on different areas of the brain because they understand physiology, and they get phenomenal results for depression. Now, this is a wave. Now, here's what's different. Let's say what's different. You've seen an amp coil.
Yes.
You don't feel anything. You don't really hear anything. Sometimes you'll hear a tone from the coil.
Right.
If the room's very quiet. But you generally just feel a melting of tissue. You feel an ease. You feel warmth in the body. Where a higher powered device, the wave is so strong from the machine that you get a contraction in the muscle belly of the soft tissue. Specifically, if it's something like a quad or a glute or a pectoral. If you're over a bony structure like the knee, you don't feel it as much, and the knee is not going to bounce. But that muscle belly will start to bounce because there's a contraction, and that wave stops and starts. That's what's very different about these. So, and there's oftentimes some are digital and some actually have a spark plug inside, spark gap generated electromagnetic field, where one is a digital board. In the digital ones, you can kind of tune and tone. You can get more funky with them and more dialed in. That's a preference thing, right? But I can tell you that contraction in the body, here's what's really different about these systems. The ones that are like click, 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 click that you can hear, typically the nervous system can take a little bit of a drop for a day.
Okay.
And have a bounce back. It's almost like a training effect. If I go train quads and I'm really, really sore, I'd be like, oh my God, what did I do? I hurt my quads. No, you didn't. You tore the microfibers, and hopefully you have the tools to rebuild stronger, rebuild better. That's what the body does. That's why we train. We train breath, we train sleep, we train our physiology. Now, the amp coil is a little different because that wave doesn't stop and start. it'll roll and then modulate and then roll and then modulate, and there's no clicking. And it's much softer. It's a much more gentle field. It just doesn't have the power that the other device does. Now, what we get with this, we often get an immediate boost in nervous system, in heart rate variability, and resting heart rate, and the depth of breath. So if you lived in America and you had an understanding of where everybody's nervous system sits right now, what do you think would be a great tool for a sympathetic dominant nervous system? Possibly, amp coil could be a good tool to have in the toolbox. And so that's really how that system functions. That's how it's different now. There's a million different, not a million, but there's hundreds of different combinations of songs on there on amp coil. And until you've used it, until you've been around it, you don't understand. It's almost like there's like this gap in experience and belief and like science, because sound therapy, this has been around since the Egyptians have been doing sound chambers for depression, for headaches and migraines. It's an old known medicinal tool in the toolbox. But today there's a lot of people would be like, that's woo woo, that's not science. I promise you, the way quantum physics has identified the way the body is not a solid, me separated from the chair, from the desk, these are all different oscillating patterns. Everything is moving, like this ceiling is wood. This laptop is some type of an alloyed metal. My skin, right? These things are all moving at different rates. Now the desk and the computer and the wood is more solid. Right? Where I have I'm a different oscillating pattern. And the other way to think about this is like, if you've ever, tissue is not just tissue. Put down a piece of chicken thigh, put down a liver, and then put down a piece of tendon. And you'll see how these are they're all human. It's all flesh, right? Yeah. But we have different oscillating patterns of this tissue. And throughout the history of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, electroacupuncture handbook, different scientific entities have identified different tones that benefit different tissue. Now, I know I'm going to lose some of the audience here and say, again, there's not tones that help specific tissue. You have to just, I'd say, I understand, I meet you where you're at. And once you have the experience and you see it 100 times, 1,000 times, then you understand. There's a woman out there, her name is Eileen McCusick, who has mapped the human biofield with tuning forks. And she's shown that just single tuning forks tuned to an A flat, an F or D, or whatever she tunes them to. I'm not a tuning fork expert, but that she can change physiology, heart rate variability, sleep cycles, brain cycles with tuning forks again and again, pretty accurately. And there's the thousands and thousands of practitioners all over the world. It's not a small community.
And even, I would say, like, I think of so I had a family member who was having leg pain and sort of like leg spasms, things. Yeah. And I tried a couple of different things, different settings on the amp coil, and she wasn't really feeling relief. Like, it was a little bit better, but I was like, I'm not going to tell her what setting I'm doing. I did the brain. Like, there are a couple of settings for the brain. Did that one. She was like, whoa, what is happening? Like, I'm feeling it through my legs. So I think sometimes even it's, we might think this is coming from a specific area, but it could be in that case, like the nervous system, the myelination, like something is being signaled at a deeper level. And so, yes, we might think, oh, this is the frequency I'm going to need, but even testing it out and being open that maybe the body is giving a symptom somewhere that's related higher up the chain that we need to treat with a specific frequency that we weren't considering initially.
Yeah. I love that. And why I embrace amp coil to this day. And I had bought one sight unseen, never tried it.
Oh, wow.
Heard a podcast with the founders. This is 2018. It was a long wait to get one. I think I waited 6 months. And my body just started to all my adhesions, all my abdominal adhesions that I was going to the emergency room like every 2 months, and either just a 3-day obstruction or I was getting surgery.
Wow.
In a year that stopped.
Wow.
I have to this day, I have adhesions. We didn't go in there and we didn't cut those with the electromagnetic frequency waves or the sound therapy waves, but they stopped doing these complete or partial obstructions.
Wow.
Now the only thing I can tell you is, and that was my AMP Coil year. I didn't have any other biohacking tools, or I had them and had used them for 4 years to no avail.
Right.
Not that they didn't work, but they didn't work for the thing that I needed assistance with.
Right.
And so that year of me not going to like life and death situations and puking for 3 days, I can't even tell you what that did for my healing journey. And so I have to keep going back and putting this device and this technology and this team on a pedestal and saying, look, there's something really, really special here. And in this space of like wellness technology, we tend to just jump on to the next thing or what's coming next or what's new. This is really an ancient technology. It is just sound. It's an electromagnetic wave, which you would get from standing barefoot on the planet for hours and hours and hours. Now, obviously, this is a hormetic dose in which you get a bunch of energy in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes that you couldn't get from being outside all day long. You know, we wouldn't get the same hormetic boost. And because we have this disconnection from nature, which is go put your hands on a tree. That's a frequency.
Yeah.
And because we aren't outside, it's like we bring, in a way, we're bringing nature back in, and we're doing this energetic clearing with this electromagnetic wave and these tones to let the hyper intelligent body clear up the leg spasms, to let the hyper intelligent body release the tension in the fascia. You know, again, it's like why I love doing a deep dive on CFT in the last like,
That
you
was
know,
so
3-4
fun.
months. It's like, I don't do anything except for hold. It was really funny because I don't, you know, I went to the training weekend
Yes,
and
that
I've
was
been
so
around
great.
you guys and I've had it done on me a lot, but
Yeah.
I've been working on people and everybody has been like, wow, you are such a talented healer. like, I am just holding and I'm listening and it is amazing, you know, but my ego is like, dude, you don't know what you're just holding.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the sacrum and I'm feeling where there's tension in the organs. And then all of a sudden the body starts to shake and release. And I'm simply holding the hip joint and I'm mobilizing the leg. And all of a sudden, like, you get a shoulder drop. It's like your body is holding. It's holding all the times it didn't speak up for itself. It's holding all the times it wanted to say no when it said yes. All the things, right?
Yes.
And so this is just another tool to clear the slate. And I really think that's what's happening. You know, because the frustrating thing is you'd want everybody to be like, you'd want everybody to use a tool and immediately get the results that they want. Just like, you know, it's kind of like if I pour a glass of water on 100 people, they all get wet. And that's why I'll go back to the baseline of if I put a coil on you, you all get circulation.
Right.
You all get extra energy in the system. Do you have resolution of your decreasing, you know, vision or your liver pain? I don't know.
Right.
Because there's so much stuff going on in the body. And I think we have to be humble when we're talking about the body. You know, when our understanding, we've been programmed to reduce everything to the pathophysiology, which is kind of a trigger word for me. My partner uses that all the time. And I'm like, it's not just the pathophysiology of one bad thing in the terrain. There's so many things.
Yes.
Someone said today, commenting on, I saw Rich Roll talked about, you know, the 4 pillars of elite nutrition that we need. And everybody's like, well, what about oxalates? And what about gluten? And guys, these are things that your microbiome, when balanced in a good ratio, should be able to deal with. That is a signal and it's information that your body is now responding to the gluten or the oxalate or da-da-da-da-da. Who's gone? who's gone missing from that microbial community that did the job to not turn those oxalates into kidney stones. Or you are so locked up in your QL that your kidneys can't even function to let those minerals release, right? There's so many different things, and we don't know the pathophysiology. We can make a story about it, and that's beneficial to some point. But I really think this next phase of like understanding the body and healing, clear the signal, clear the noise, the body's hyperintelligence, give it space to process and heal.
Hey guys, so Freddie was able to get a code for the AMP coil that we discuss in the podcast, and that code is beautifully broken. So that is based off of the name of his podcast. So if you're like, what was the code again? It is beautifully broken, all one word, if you wanted to get a discount on trying out the AMP coil.
You know, we say sleep hygiene and get your deep sleep and waking hour and your sleep onset and your HRV and your deep sleep and everybody's all into their Oura Ring data. I was like, give your body the time to process the things that happened in the day, repair the tissue, repair the DNA, and dump the garbage. That's what's happening.
This is a huge, people listening to this podcast, they probably have kids that aren't sleeping well, that aren't breathing great. They themselves are maybe dealing with that population. You know, when it comes to airway issues, sleep issues, this is a big concern. I mean, this is where, like, using things like red light, some of these other foundational tools. Can you talk about that? Like, how can we be transitioning to support? And then I think this is a perfect segue as well into the blueprint as you're talking about these foundational ways we can support the body, because you're right, we need to be sleeping. But I mean, we actually have an epidemic of children that are not sleeping. Like, they're not sleeping well. They're not getting the air, the oxygen they need.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think what you have to do is even sleep doesn't function alone. Sleep is dependent on the time I have without food before I go to sleep. It's dependent on light in my bedroom. It's dependent on how many steps I took that day. You know, there's so many things. It's like, it's all related. And so you can look at it like a big pie chart, and you can say, okay, what are the foundational elements that support my physiology? Well, they're all medicine. Light is medicine. Breath is medicine. Muscle, fascia, drainage, gut health. Food is medicine. Language, the quality of the language. What is a conversation when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror? What's that conversation look like? You know, a lot of people, it's very negative. It's almost framing a road to illness.
Wow.
And so if we don't look at all of it, how do we say, well, you need red light therapy?
Yeah.
I think a better question is understanding, if we understand how light is medicine, which we're not all on the same page there, you know, how much light do we need? What's the value of waking and seeing just for 30 minutes outside, even if there's not sun, depending on where you live in the US, what's the value of that, resetting that circadian clock? And then what is the cost? What's the biological cost of the lux, which is the measurement of light off a television, of, 4 Netflix shows in a while directly into my retina? Or the receptors in the skin. You know, we don't have an understanding of like what that looks like. So the last year, and I'm very much at this point of like internal frustration around how much information there is right now. And I think over the last year, I was like, I just need to put this all down. And so I made this academy called the Biological Blueprint, which is really like, what is light? How much do we need? What is the medicinal dose? What are the bad times to be in light? What's the value of adding in a red light? Because a red light therapy devices do not replace, the sun. I believe Absolutely. It's like we need for it to light to get that like sunlight benefit. We need like 10,000 lux, and that is not, I think it's centimeters per milliwatt squared. I might screw that up, which is how we measure red lights. Like a bed is usually close to 70 to 90 centimeters per milliwatt squared. And then like a handheld torch can be up to like 200. They're all different wavelengths, and you can, there's lots of people that are like, oh, this is the strength you need. But honestly, there's value in red light, really, really dim, like 1 lux, which is like a candle.
So this is what because people will often ask, like, okay, what is it? Because I use red light. I'll use a handheld red light. I use different types, but a handheld red light specifically, like when I'm working with babies or different populations. And I will see, and I can use it almost like a spot treatment. I'm not doing it a long time. And I tend to see value in that it's like the brain is paying attention suddenly to the signal that I follow up with. So I can do manual inputs. I can do different techniques and strategies to help someone with swallowing, like babies with sucking, with reflex integration, things like this. But I mean, I've seen it with pretty cheap red lights, not even like super fancy ones. I've also used more expensive kinds, and those you do feel it is a difference. But I'd love for you to speak to that, about the value of the different kinds of red light. And I tend to be a fan of like, try some, use it. It doesn't, like you said, take the place of the sun. It never will. We need morning and evening light. We need that exposure. But what are your thoughts on just the different types of red lights there are and how they are beneficial to the body in different ways?
Yeah, so there's again, it's a whole podcast, and I think there was just an episode on Huberman, and they talked about red light. Now, obviously, this is another thing where he's going to start the show referencing the Juve, and Juve is probably like the commercial red light panel that's been on the market the longest. It's quite high priced for what it is. They're a good company, but again, I'm like the frugal longevityist, which is what I need to name my Substack.
Yes.
Because I'm always like, how do I get this in?
Yeah.
And still do life?
Right.
Right. How do I get this in? Because I think this is good. I want to have it in my life. They do a really good job in that episode of breaking down all of the details. And he's a scientist, and he is incentivized by talking about Juve, and they're obviously a show sponsor, and they have deep pockets. So I get it. And that's always a bummer when you have somebody you really admire, like, oh, that's the one you're going behind. But, I have a full red light wall, like a full wall that's like 4 panels. They're 15 inches wide. It's 6.5 feet tall. And that's where I do, after I'm outside for my morning shower, to get my morning red light, that's where I do my morning emails. And then I'll flip around and I'll put a pulse rate on the panel, 40 hertz, and I'll do my eyes for like 5 to 7 minutes, because 40 hertz pulse is supposed to be great for the brain, supposed to be great for cognition. There's also 10 hertz you can do to kind of downregulate. This panel system I have, it goes from 0 to, I think it's 999, or maybe it's like 0 to like 10,000. I think it's been a while since I reviewed the specs. But I can set pulse rates. And the other thing is that it's full body. So like I'm going to get the benefit of the red light is going to help to release nitric oxide. I'm going to get vasodilation. We all know nitric oxide is phenomenal. If you're over 30 and you're not taking a nitric oxide supplement, I think that's one really easy one to add to a forever list that I will keep on a forever list, because again, I am going to age. This is something that we just lose, right? This is why so many men are on the blue pill, because that vasodilation. It doesn't mean that you don't want to ask other questions and like, why am I having this erectile dysfunction? But it means part of the story is nitric oxide release.
Exactly. Well, that's huge in the airway world. Huge. So, I mean,
huge, right?
Yeah. That often is what will bring specifically adult men in for treatment, is they will kind of do their own Googling and figuring out, okay, why is this not working the way that it used to?
That's right.
And
that's right.
I mean, they've got obstructive sleep apnea and they're not getting nitric oxide up. So
that's right. Also, like, do other tests and ask other questions about your heart. The circulatory nature of your legs. What happens when you sit on an airplane for 45 minutes, 2 hours? Can you barely walk when you get out of the seat? Those are signals from the body. And I want to get back to red light. I said a release of nitric oxide. Cytochrome C oxidase, I think, is the enzyme that's activated by red light. I'm sorry I didn't study for red light before we got on here.
You're good.
Go to that.
But
Go to that Hero
it's in the
podcast.
biological. It's also in the biological blueprint. Your academy.
It is right.
So,
it's all
there you
in
go.
there. But we want to understand what enzyme is activated. You know, how many minutes we want to be in front of the red light. Now, the other thing is called beauty and aesthetics.
Oh, heck
Like
yeah.
I'm creeping in on 40. I'll be 48 at the end of the month. Like I always get people like always pulled back when I say what my age is. And they're like, wow, your skin looks great. What do you use? You know, I have an esthetician that I use here in town that like we do some PRF and PRP, but that's like in the last like year and a half. Like most of the time it's just red light. I don't use creams. I don't use lotions. I should use a gentle SPF for being in Texas when I'm going to be out in the really, really bad sun at certain peak hours of the day. But it's mostly red light. And I find I don't burn when I do the red light, probably because we're also getting this enzyme activated that is helping cellular energy, and hence downstream, the cell is more robust and resistant to getting a burn. Right? It's managing the sun a little bit better. I've always noticed that if I do 10 to 15 minutes of full body red light, I don't burn as easy. It just doesn't happen. And I'm in Austin, Texas.
Well, you
I'm from
also
the
don't
Northeast.
eat any seed oils. So
I don't eat seed oils. I eat healthy fats. That's right.
Yeah.
I eat pretty darn clean proteins, animal proteins, lots of vegetables, lots of polyphenols. So I do all that, but it's for me, it's like, yeah, you can get a little red light panel on Amazon, but go for one with a longer warranty. I really like LightPath LED. They're usually who I tell people to go to. They have a great handheld unit. They have a big panel. They're coming out with a panel that's, I think it's 6 foot by 4 foot on an articulating arm. That's pretty wild. I mean, it's like $7,000, but it's like if you go look at a red light bed, those are 125, and this is more powerful. It's a great practitioner tool, right? Because you can take someone on a bed, do whole body, all the things. But it's like meet your budget and your body where it's at. I'd say at the bare minimum, have one that's like a tabletop version that does your face. I think that's a great, if not, there's like little torches, red light torches.
Right.
They have a torch over there that pulses 10 hertz, 40 hertz. It's very powerful. I think it's 200 milliwatts per centimeter squared. That's what it is. Milliwatts per centimeter squared is how you measure the intensity of the red light. How much time do you need to get that energy into the cell? I've used it. I've used it since like 2019, early 2020. You most of the time I've had a full body panel.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah,
I do not
huge
have one of those. That's a goal, 2026 goal. Let's go. Okay. I want to talk about the Bimini. Is that how I say it? I didn't.
The Bimini. Yep.
Bimini. I didn't even warn you that I wanted to ask about this. Can
No,
you
it's
share my Airway Oxygen Thinking group? Share with us what that is.
Yeah, so the Bimini is a new way to do oxygen therapy. Typically we've got hyperbaric chambers. Obviously, we have the free biological blueprint. We have breath work, CO2 tolerance, breathing, breath holds, static breath holds. Phenomenal, right? And then we've got really high-end things like a hyperbaric chamber.
Right.
Also great. And they're very expensive.
Yep.
And there is extra precaution needed around safety.
Yes.
And then we've got things like EWAT, which is exercise with oxygen therapy, which is essentially an oxygen concentrator hooked up to a big bag, a jet mask, and we do oxygen, and we use the pressure through the lungs to drive oxygen to the extremities. And now we've got this thing called Nanobubbled oxygen therapy. There's a company over in, I think it's Hungary, that is called, oh God, what's it called? Cocoon. I think it's KAQUN, Cocoon. Mostly they sell oxygenated water on the website, but they have a system that's like $120,000, might be a little more than that, that's a full bathtub. Right. That creates oxygen into stable nanobubbles. Now, I've always known about this system. People travel over there that are going through cancer to get this oxygen therapy, mineral-rich oxygen water. And obviously, I'm not going to go to Hungary, and I don't have the $120,000, $100,000, so it's always been out of reach. I randomly ran into, through a Google search, a company in Houston called Bimini.
Hey, here.
And Bimini has taken a system and they've mechanically broken down the oxygen bubbles from an oxygen concentrator, I think 10 liters per minute. So what's an oxygen concentrator? It's like creating 87 to 83% pure oxygen. It's running it through a system, and it's got a pump in it. So it's pulling the water from your bathtub, it's sending it back in, and then it's sending it through a mechanical filter. And it's breaking the oxygen bubble down to like 0.2 microns. It's just passing through the skin. More importantly, is that the oxygen is stable in your water. So I can get the oxygen in my bathtub up 300%.
Wow.
I have a dissolved oxygen meter that I'm measuring it in. And so I've always been a problem sleeper, and I got the system. Now it's been like 3 or 4 months, and it literally, I say that, I hate to say this because everybody's going to want to do the same thing. It fixed my sleep. Wow. I have had like a 93 to 100 sleep score every night I use it for 4 months. And I can't understate or overstate the value to that. Now, is it going to do that for your sleep? I don't know what your sleep issue is. My working theory, and I do have a Substack paper on the pathophysiology and how this device works and the value of a nanobubble and why we have nanobubbled oxygen inside the cell already as a design of the human being. Mm-hmm. There's a great researcher down in Australia all his work is in the Substack article. I think in this sympathetic dominant state in which we're not doing our deep breaths, when we have accelerated respiratory rates, when we're have all these microcapillaries closed down by the environmental toxicants or the crepitus in the joints, is that having oxygen from the outside, from the tissue in, from peripheral absorption in the body, I think it's a different beast. Everybody I've put in the machine has been like, wow, I feel really good. I'm in it like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. My tonsils start to tingle. The base of my tongue starts to tingle. And I can feel the oxygen absorbing over time. I just went to a snowboard trip. I went up to Bozeman, and we went up to see our friends there for the week. Now, my HRV crashed going from sea level to Bozeman, right? Because I'm up, the mountain's 8,000 feet, right? My body's like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? We're starving for oxygen.
Yeah.
Down to like 20, where it was like 60, 70 and like really consistent. So I was like, so bummed. And of course I came back and it like shot back up. I had a perfect sleep score. Let me tell you this. I had a perfect sleep score every night, like 97 to 100. HRV was tanked. So my body's like, you're not utilizing oxygen correctly because there is not enough of it in the environment. And so I had this partial gap, but I got home, did like a 1-hour bath last night, and it just skyrocketed. And I feel amazing today. Like I feel, and it was a 2-flight, situation. You're on a plane all day. You're getting gassed in the back. I was in the back of the plane and just got, when the engines flip and you just get gassed in the back. I was like, whoa, dude. I can barely breathe. It's stinging everything. Anyways, so I'm doing all my detox stuff to like manage that. But I just felt amazing. It's been really interesting. This system is in I think it's every single NFL team, spare 2, have players using the Bimini. Many team locker rooms, they have a big version that you can do a hot tub with. So you can do like 5 or 6 people at the same time. It's more expensive. And then they have a commercial grade tub that the water you kind of want it around like 93, 92 degrees. You don't want it super hot because that's going to dehydrate you. It can dehydrate you with the extra oxygen. Little chilly water, not chilly, 92, 93, above body temp. But you just want to sit in that lukewarm water, right? And these commercial tubs are phenomenal. Like people just say doing this pre any manual therapy or body work is a game changer because you've oxygenated all that tissue and all that fascia.
I, of course, see so many people with tonsil and adenoid issues, and it's always this, do we go in and get it surgically removed? They can't breathe. And there are times it's absolutely indicated. But obviously, we want to do as much as we can to try and avoid that. Is there any topical way to I'm just thinking can we spray this on any of the mucosa? Have they done any research into that? Just could you gargle with this? Is this something just to get a little bit oxygenation going back there? Or is it best through the skin, just, like you said, submerging to get that exposure?
There's so many ways to do it. And there's again, could you bubble this and make drinking water? 100%. Okay. Because it is stable for quite a while. You could theoretically have a tub. You could use the Bimini to make 4 gallons, and you could put it through like my tabletop AquaTrue filter, and then you would just seal the bottle. So you could definitely do that. There are some people, Cocoon sells it. You could definitely gargle with this water. Now, I don't have the data, and no one will, and this is where it gets really tricky. Would I be better off to have my ozonator, my Simply O3 ozone machine, bubble water and create ozonated water, which is O3, and has a very unstable oxygen molecule, and I gargle that on the tonsils? I think that might be better, because then you're getting this oxidative therapy. You're killing those negative microbes in the tonsils. You're releasing that oxygen as it neutralizes whatever is stuck in that chronic infection in the tonsil. And that's like an $1,100 device versus, the Bimini is 10 grand.
Right.
Now, they're so different, but I'd say spot treatment, I would almost go with, I almost might go with the Ozone.
Which I love that okay, guys, this is in part why I love talking to Freddie, is we can weave in and out of a lot of different devices, applications, practices, and Ozone. We both love it. We both use Simply O3. And it's, that's typically what I will say with patients is, for one thing, they now have the headset that's so easy to put over your ears, especially like when it used to be the stethoscope, it was a lot harder. But let's say they've got these chronic ear infections, eustachian tubes are not opening. We can actually get in there. They can put that headset on and just within 10 minutes do a pretty full treatment. And that can make a huge difference. I mean, I know when I had that temporal bone infection that was so wild, that was the only thing that took the pain away, was I would put that on.
I've got another cheapie for your audience here.
Let's see it. Here we go.
This is my new fave.
Is this a whistle?
No.
What is it?
This is the world's smallest respiratory resistance tool that I wear on my neck, and I can set it from a 0 to 5. Now, I will tell you, we've talked about all this oxidative therapy, but I want to, or ways to do oxygen, right? You got to work with the system.
Yes.
All these tools are phenomenal. And they're a way to amplify and accelerate your performance. And I love them. However, it's a Band-Aid and a patch.
Yes.
I want your rib cage and your pelvic floor to have a relationship. I want your rib cage to expand fully. Now, I'm a singer, right? My background, we didn't talk about this, but I used to do Broadway, sing and dance for a living. You're like, I have a good rib cage, and it's probably saved me a lot of other medical complications after all these surgeries. One of my surgeries was to cut sternum to pelvis, open it up, cut away the cancer, which was all within my, lymph nodes, underneath my gut, and put it all back in. And I've done that twice. So I have a lot of scar tissue here. My rib cage expansion is always helping and supporting that scar tissue. Like my respiratory rate, I have a very low respiratory rate. I think it's like 12.1 or 13.1 every single night at night. Wow. People ride at 25, 26. Yeah. Those shallow breaths are not doing any favors to getting nutrients and oxygen to the cells that need it. So we have to look at respiratory rate. We got to look at rib cage expansion. We want to look at breathing pathways, right? I have a deviated septum. So every night, while I do believe in mouth taping, I can't do mouth taping without a nasal expander. So I have the magnets, the inline that I'm loving right now.
Oh, inline. Okay.
Yeah, which is just it's giving me, as opposed to this, ready? Listen. Nope. Yep. It's giving me that opening. So that's something where it's think of all the parts that were, if you were to go and be like, oh, I need an EWAT machine or a hyperbaric chamber, maybe because you had concussions. Yeah. So your story has laid in concussions and environmental mold and a deviated septum. If you don't fix all of those, we won't get better performance. And this is the problem with podcasts in the wellness space, is that people get really excited about a tool. Yeah. We go buy the tool. We don't get the results that we want. We're financially in the hole. And then we've created a story about why we're broken and we can't heal. And that's why we have to do the foundational. I mean, why not do the foundational things first?
For sure.
Let me say this. I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth. When you're struggling and you're not getting the results and you finally get a hold of an amp coil or the Bimini and you sleep or you're pain-free, you're like, oh my God. And I think this is what happens in the space is like people finally stumble their way into a fix and they're like, this was it. It was a thing. It was part of your story.
Right.
And it happened to be at the right moment and the right time. I would now lobby to say, do and learn and understand. You have a responsibility to understand your physiology. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Yes.
Half of all Americans will die of cancer. We're going to all get cancer, right? It's half of all Americans will get cancer. That's the stat. Our chronic disease epidemics, like 70% of Americans have a chronic illness which will never resolve and they medicate for their lives. You have a responsibility to understand and know your physiology, know your breath, know your light, know what good nutrition is, know what timed eating windows should be. Understand what you need to avoid based on your physiology. Understand the muscle mass that you need to have freedom and mobility into your 70s and 80s. You know, if you're a person that's like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore, it always breaks my heart. I'm like, dude, you can totally do that. You can totally do that. Right? We've watched, we think muscles is like pumping up muscles and making them big. And well, if those muscles are built on a very poorly constructed lever, all you're doing is creating long-term pain.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. The body is a machine that you want it to be able to lever power and force and energy effectively. And if it's not levered effectively, you make your own pain, right? Your back isn't broken. You did that. It's your sitting, it's your walking, it's your hip, it's your high school football injury. I could go on and on and on. I say all this to say there's so much ground and leverage to gain by understanding the basics and the foundations of movement, of fascia, of breath, of light, right? And this is what the biological blueprint is. Not to go on and on about it, but these are the big ROIs. These are the big ROIs, and I think there's just so much information. It's like who do I trust? Where do I do? Where do I start? I tend to start people with light. Go clean up your light, right? That's a pretty easy one.
I'm curious, what kind of light do you use for your podcasting? Because right now I have these, they're like LEDs. And by the end, I always have to go out. I'll put my Erland syndrome lenses on and go like recalibrate a little bit. Do you have some that you're like, these are great, they're bright enough that you show up?
Yeah, no. I mean, I have, they're newer two LEDs over here, overhead, but I have a sunlight right here. So I have natural light coming in. And then these are tinted. Yeah. Yeah. So they're just blocking a little bit of the blue light, but I usually wear yellows. And I found I have no fatigue or reds after a podcast. Yep. I have no eye fatigue, whereas like energetically, I really feel it if I don't have the glasses on.
That makes sense.
Because you're just getting blasted with like this artificial flicker rate, right?
I know.
These lights are flickering. Yeah.
And our brains are going, we see it. Well, I love the focus on like the foundational, really what I'm a myofunctional therapist. Like I'm wanting people to get the function down and really to do that before we're doing crazy tools. At the same time, I'm all about using tools to, how do we shorten the time? How do we get people back out into living life, into sleeping better without having to see me a bunch? Really, that's where it's, and not everyone needs tools. Like some people, they literally just need exercises that they're doing and they're practicing. And especially when we're younger, like the younger they are that they come in and I get to see them, the less I have to do stacking of different tools and techniques. Yeah. And it's just, I think in a way, as we get older, sometimes it's almost like the tool can provide an excuse for change. It's like we get so stuck that like, well, I would have changed if I could do this on my own. I actually find the shockwave can be like that, especially for men. Like somehow there's something about it that they're like, oh, that made the difference. And it's like, actually, you're practicing deep breathing as you were doing it. And you got in touch a little bit more with your how to relax your nervous system intentionally. So there's so much to be said, I think, of knowing, and as practitioners, I think we have to be intuitive of where is this person at in front of me? What do they actually need? And having that conversation so that sometimes it's almost like, okay, we're going to use the tools so they feel like progress is being made, even though we might know that the progress is being made because they set the intention that it would be so. And they're now present with it. So I love that guys, it's this balance of do your research, find out about these new technologies, because I think it is important, especially if you're walking into a doctor's office for some treatment. There might be some other things to consider first or to advocate for before you're going in for A, B, C. Like let's just see what else there might be there that we can uncover, or at least that we can set that foundation for a better recovery. And I think if you have questions about some of those technologies, you can reach out to Freddie, because he, as you can tell, is a wealth of knowledge and a great resource. So to that end, how can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, they can go to, it's Freddie.Kimmel on Instagram. You can send me a DM. I'm not going to answer your question but I'll connect you with the website. Website's beautifulybroken.world. And right on the homepage, there's a work with me. So we can do a consult. And one of my favorite things is a clarity consult. It's essentially like a mini podcast. We're going to do an hour on you and your story and what's worked, what hasn't worked. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to do a couple hours of like deep dive on your most efficient way to an improved position. What levers do we want to pull first? It may be foundational. It may be Bimini nanotherapy is your perfect next step. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will always try to give people the free version, but that's one of my favorite things to do. And I've just started doing that. It's really like a wellness concierge consultant. And so, you can go find it and Google it, and you can find 100 brands of red light, but what one's the best for my money, for my need?
Yep.
And that's where I can really be of great service. On the homepage, you can also look at the biological blueprint. That's kind of my favorite.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, it's like really, really good. It's 96 modules. Everything's audio. It's on an app on your phone. You can do it on the gym. There's 20 medical doctors incorporated in the course, from biological dentistry to airway specialists to fasting specialists to holistic oncology. Everything is in there. And you get paid back if you complete it. I think it's going to be $1,900 for 6 months. You got 6 months to do the course. You get Bitcoin back if you complete. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of it. We got a bunch of movers and shakers in there now, and people are doing really great. I have nurses, I have doctors in there taking it, and they're like, this needs to be a medical course. You need to turn this into, so I'm like already thinking about getting it accredited. And we just can, the beauty about that is I keep adding and building on it, right? We keep adding and building. So when I come across like, okay, we've talked about nervous system tone, meditation and breathing techniques, ways to amplify nervous system resiliency, CO2 tolerance breathing. We've got action steps, how to do it. Yeah. And then when I'm like, oh, this is actually how we take what my HRV is chronically low. How do you train your HRV? Right? Nobody talks about that. They're like, what do I do? Like all these, it's just up and down. It's like, well, you need to find your resonance breath.
Ooh, wait, what is that? Can you explain what a resonance breath is? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, everybody has a different resonance breath, and there's different apps out there to find. Be like, are you a 5'6" or a 5'4" or a 5'5", and how long are you going to do that? It's kind of linked in with heart rate variability. There's a couple apps that will actually find your resonance breath through your finger touch, definitely on the new iPhone. But it's it's like your internal, where are you at? And it's kind of match that tone of your breath pattern to really optimize nervous system resiliency and put you in the sweet spot. It's a safety thing, but I've also found this guy, I wear it on my neck, and I'm not going to, people are like, what's that? I'm like, oh yeah, it's time to do my 10 breaths.
Yeah. What's that one called? I have one right over here. It might be the same brand. What's yours called?
The Relaxer.
Yeah, that's the same one I have. Yeah.
Anders Olsen. Do you know him?
Yes. I mean, anybody that's read Breath knows him.
Yeah, he's in the biological blueprint. He does my whole module on he does a big thing on CO2 tolerance, concussions, why a CO2 tolerance is so important for our resiliency against concussions, which is so became more about CO2 than it is oxygen. He's got a great tool that I've just started playing with, and we're going to have him on, which is a machine which calibrates breathing CO2.
I saw that on your website.
So
Guys, go
fun.
check out Freddie's website. It's so fun.
So fun.
It's
This is the free one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can go cut a straw in half. Don't use a plastic straw, get a metal straw. Or I can do this little tool, or I can purse my lips.
That resistance. Yep.
For that resistance. But I shouldn't be doing this one session a day.
Yeah.
I should be doing it 2 to 3 to 4 times a day. It really depends how your day is structured. Where do you find yourself building and holding tension to you'll be like, oh my God, my shoulders are up in my ears. I do that all the time. The awareness is really what we're trying to change. It's like, do you ever get off a phone call and you're like, oh my God,
yes.
why didn't I breathe during that call? Where was I going? Where was I running to?
As you said this, that it's called the resonance breath, right? Is that the term? 'Cause I'm going to use it all the time now. I just think of this is actually, I think, why I feel so present when I have sessions with patients who are nonverbal, usually on the spectrum, not always, but there's such a moment of like tuning in, and I will feel, usually my breath doesn't match theirs. And I'm like, where are they at? Where do we need to be? And it isn't until I have to be intentional in those sessions. They pull me into the present, and really the breath, I will see, okay, I'm going to match them, but then we're going to shift it. And we get them to that calibrated shift in breath. That's when we start making the big changes in the session, in their goals, and specifically in connection. Like all of a sudden they're with me versus not being with me. And I just think, there's so much beauty in that. And where is it that our body naturally wants to be for that resonance breath? I love that.
That's right. Yeah. And it's this may cause a shift for people. I mean, I think it will definitively. However, if all the lymph nodes in your face, head, and neck are blocked, the shift is going to be lackluster.
Yeah.
Open up the drainage pathways on the subclavian, left subclavian first, then over to the right. And we're going to do all these. We have 600 to 1,000 lymph nodes in the body. We got 300 plus in the face, head, and neck, depending on what medical textbook you pick up.
Yes.
So because we are a Botox culture, because we don't engage when we really talk, because there isn't this active listening, because we sit at a desk, this gets really stagnant up here.
It sure does. Yeah.
So we've got to move this fluid. And that's why, again, sub $100 tool, the Flow Vibrate.
Yeah.
One of the best. It sits in my tote bag. I bring it on the plane, pre and post flight. It comes with me in the car. I do it every single day. And I don't make a lot of noise about it because it needs to be there. It needs to be a daily thing given the world we live in.
Even the orbs. You can, like you said, you can use the orbs. You put them under your armpits and you can drive.
Stick them under your armpit.
Yeah.
Yep. Stick them behind your knees when you drive.
Yeah.
Like, again, what are those? $75. Sub $75 tool, which they're rechargeable. It really doesn't cost you a lot.
Yeah.
But if you have joint pain, that is synonymous with lymphatic dysfunction. Now, is that just lymphatic dysfunction? No. The lymph system is made up of smooth muscle, just like the heart, and is impacted by your nervous system tone and how much emotional garbage you are holding. Not to mention the environmental garbage you are holding. Nothing lives in a silo. So it's all related. And we need to separate things to treat and talk about and address. And then we need to have the superpower to pull back and ask, what else could be impacting this system when I'm not getting the results that I want?
Absolutely. We didn't even get to go into lymph. That's probably got to be its own.
Let's do it again.
Yes, because it's so important. And again, anytime I'm talking about tonsils and adenoids, even limited range of mobility of the tongue. If somebody has just sluggish lymph drainage, of the head and neck, the tongue is just kind of weighted and it doesn't want to move as much. So yeah, circumlaryngeal massage like you're doing right there, just getting that movement, that microcirculation up, getting lymphatics to drain. It makes such a difference in our ability to move the tongue, to be able to do myofunctional therapy. Guys, it's all related. It's big.
I mean, I'll tell you, we talked about amp coil and sound therapy and single tone therapy. I have a phenomenal, energetic, emotional, and just centering when I do a vocal warm up.
Yes.
Think about the resonators in the face and the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
You know, people are using shockwave on the or stem wave or soft wave, which are different shockwave devices. Don't use a shockwave on your forehead, but they're using these up here on the prefrontal cortex to have movement in the brain. Think about a vocal warm-up for free, which we do in the biological blueprint. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I haven't warmed up, so I don't feel that a lot up here yet. Right? But we can change a vowel. We can do na. We can na 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 na. So I can change the vowel shape and I can start to feel that vibration up here. Free.
Yes.
Free. It's so easy. But you get the body wants to express and move and sing and be connected, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of we just have to be reminded, these simple, free tools, nothing lives in a bubble, that we have access to today. You don't need a prescription. You just take your own agency and you're like, I want more out of life because I want more out of my body, because I want to give more. Whatever your mission statement is.
Yes. Amazing. You and I could keep talking for hours, and
I know
we have multiple things that we will just need to do this again so we can keep talking. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Freddie. It has been such a joy and a pleasure. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the MyoHacker Podcast. Remember, small changes can make big impacts on our overall health and well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. This way, more families will learn about this important information and we can make a bigger impact. Head on over to myohackerslp.com for in-depth resources and guides. You can also join me on Instagram at myohackerslp for bonus content and demos. And if you have questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, send me a message. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, let's biohack myofunctional health as myohackers who change the world through intentional action and connection and breathing. Quick disclaimer reminder, the content shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only.